I've done campaigns in the past when we wanted to get in front very specific people. So we only chose, the likes of Financial Times, Forbes, New York Times, so publishers like that, very, very premium. So that was something that I think programmatic is really good at, because you just can see the results very clearly. And also how cool is that you open, Forbes.com and you see your ad. That's really something that what I think marketing is about. I know that if you are in a position that you have to show your ROAS, your ROI, whatever it is, you need the numbers, then it might be a good solution. But my approach is that, not every activity in marketing is measurable. I have the approach that it's always good to compare, because if you have a limited budget, I'm not going to say go with programmatic and, have all the different ad formats, just set your money on fire, it will be fine. Because you just might not have the resources to do it.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Let's Talk Digital, provided by MTA Digital. I'm Jacob, I'm a digital marketing strategist at MTA Digital, and in this podcast we'll cover many interesting topics related to digital marketing. And today my first guest is Marta Janek, very good specialist from programmatic buying. From my experience, also a magnificent project manager and recently a team leader of X&W Digital. Marta, thank you for being here with me today. And would you add anything to this that description?
Thank you for inviting me. No, I think it's about right. I started with programmatic advertising about 5 years ago. And for the past few months, I had a role, I'm still having a role of the team leader at X&W Digital. So an agency that is mainly focused on wealth management and the finance business.
Okay. I'm sure we'll have another episode to talk about that in the future, because that's definitely a very interesting topic to cover. However, today we're going to have a topic of programmatic buying, and that's where the first question comes in. Because in my opinion, programmatic buying is a thing that everyone heard about, something at least. Everyone knows that it exists, but I'm not quite sure that everyone has an idea about what it actually is. So what does it mean to actually, I don't know how to pronounce it even, buy something programmatically, or what is it in your own words?
So programmatic, I completely agree with you. I think most people don't really know what it is. They've heard about it. They've heard maybe they should also be doing it, but they don't really know where to start. So programmatic, related to, if you compare it to Meta or Google Ads, it's not one platform. It's more of a technology. So it's a technology that allows you to get your ads in front of people that matter at the right time and the right context. So you are showing your brand, your services to people that are researching, for instance, for something that's related to whatever it is that you're selling, or they are potentially already have interests that relate to your brand. So it's about just choosing the right people, right time, right place.
Okay. So how is it different from opportunities that we have in, let's say, Google Ads, or maybe Meta, or basically any other advertising platform? Because we know that in these platforms, we also have the possibility of targeting by users' behavior or interest. So what is the main difference?
So the main difference is where those ads are. So if you target on Meta, your ads will be in the Facebook environment, they will be on Instagram environment. If you target on Google, they will be in the Google environment. So all the websites that are kind of within the Google ecosystem. But with programmatic, depending on the platform you use, but in general, the ecosystem is just broader. So that means that you can get in front of the audience that you wouldn't normally with, let's say, Google. I'm not saying that it's 100% better and you should always choose programmatic, because sometimes the Google ecosystem might be just enough for your needs, depending on the industry. But from my experience, the programmatic ads also have more precise targeting and just more options, because within programmatic, you can also buy third-party data, for instance. So you can be a publisher with a specific type of websites, and then people can buy your inventory programmatically. So something that you cannot really do on Google Ads, for instance, nor Meta.
Is it more about targeting higher stages of the marketing funnel? Because usually when we're thinking about users' behavior and what they're doing in the internet, we're thinking about at least middle stage of the funnel or maybe even the top. So where would you put programmatic buying?
Definitely top of the funnel. I think that there are ways to go more to the middle or go even to the bottom of the funnel. And it's not impossible because there are options to do more performance-based, performance-focused campaigns, but it needs time and it needs to be well thought in terms of strategy and also creatives and the placements that you want to advertise on. So I've done campaigns in the past when we wanted to get in front very specific people. So we only chose, the likes of Financial Times, Forbes, New York Times, so publishers like that, very, very premium. And in the old times, the only thing we could do with that sort of need for a campaign, you need to contact them directly, right? Which also means that you have to have contacts to those people. But now, because it can be done programmatically, it means that within the platform, you can actually click and request a proposal for them, and you can actually get your ads, on New York Times. Of course, it costs a pretty buck, but still you can do it. And that's the option that I think is very premium, and it's not really used very commonly because of lack of knowledge, really. Because people, when they hear programmatic, they think, oh, this is very complicated and I have to have tons of money to do it, which in some cases is true, but not always.
This is actually something because you said about programmatic being premium. And I think that most of us realize that it's not easy to get into programmatic buying. So why is that? Is it, as you said, maybe it's more expensive, or maybe it's just, I don't know, the path to start your advertising with programmatic is more difficult? So what are the main factors that make us, stand next to it instead of using it?
I think a couple of things. So first, it is expensive. It can get expensive. Maybe let's put it like that. So because, as I said, if you want to go down the funnel, if you want to do middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, you need to be creative with it. So you need to test, for instance, different ad formats. Because on programmatic, you can do display, video, audio, out of home, YouTube. So really, the variety is there, but you need budget to test all those different things. And then if you want to test, for instance, different scripts for optimizations, different approaches on that sense, then also you need budget. So that's why it gets expensive if you want to have programmatic do all of it, cover all the goals. My approach is that if you have a robust marketing strategy, programmatic should be a part of it, but definitely not the only channel you do. So, every time I'm on a client call and a sales call, I always say that I want to be honest with clients and say, well, it's not that programmatic or top funnel will solve all of your problems. It won't, but it will help you get where you want to be. So that is the first bit, the finances. But then also, I think in general, there aren't that many people that specialize in programmatic. When you look at a kind of classic agency, they always have Google Ads, they always have Meta. They usually now have TikTok as well. But programmatic is still something that sounds a bit geeky to people. And I don't know, it's just something that I've also learned when I wanted to hire people a few times already in my career. And that was always a problem because there just aren't many specialists of that sort, which I don't really know why. Maybe it's because it doesn't boil down to one platform, but it is, a variety of those.
So let's say that I'm a marketing manager at some company and I have already campaigns using Google Ads, and let's say that I'm having some search campaigns. So let's say that my bottom of the funnel is covered. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about extending the reach of my ads, building brand awareness or something. So let's say that I want to dive into programmatic world. What platforms would you recommend, or maybe what platforms are most popular? And does it work that way that I'm just, I don't know, clicking into the domain name and I'll just, I don't know, configure my ads account and just doing it? Or is it more difficult?
It is more difficult. I've had that conversation with a few people who were Google Ads specialists first, and then they moved into programmatic, and they were like, what is this? The platforms are complicated, and the most popular ones are, I would say, display and video 360, so Google platform, and the Trade Desk. Also Adform. I think that's the top three. I've also worked on some minor ones, like smaller platforms. There are quite a lot of those. They don't have that much inventory. They're cheaper as well, more kind of boutique. So there really is a lot to choose from. But I would say those three ones are like the top ones. Also, it's a bit different than like with Google Ads when you can just like set up your account, have your card ready and you're done. With programmatic or with DV360, for instance, so the Google platform, you need to go through a partner. So you cannot just go on the website and set up your account. You have to go through a partner which will actually talk to Google directly. So that is also something that cuts into the cost because they do take a percentage, and that differs very much across the board, how big the percentage is. So that is one thing that is, I would say, an obstacle if you want to go into it. Of course, if you hire an agency, they always have accounts, like they already have this relationship established. So that's not really an obstacle in that case. But I don't think any company, maybe really a really big companies can do it themselves if they have big enough budgets. But yeah, in reality, in most cases, it is tiny bit complicated on that front.
So assuming that I'm not managing marketing in some extremely big company, I have no other choice than to just contact a specific agency or maybe directly a partner of a specific platform that's going to do it for me.
Yes, exactly. Those are your two options.
Okay. So we already know about programmatic buying. We know what that is. We have some idea about how to do it properly in terms of cost and what it takes to actually get into that. So I think before we jump into a more juicy part of our episode, where we're going to talk about how to maximize sales using programmatic buying, I think we can jump into the segment of call to action, which is a question coming from our audience before the episode.
Oh, okay.
So the most interesting one that I've selected is because we have actually covered a lot of these questions already.
Okay.
So the question is, can you share with us an example of a successful programmatic campaign and why is that? Like, what made this campaign successful in your opinion?
That is an interesting one. I won't share any client names, of course. Mm-hmm. So I come from a B2B space. That was my original experience with programmatic, which was already a bit challenging because you have to think about people who would buy like IT software, like who would buy that in a kind of B2B environment.
Never-ending challenge.
Yes, exactly. And I had a client they were doing something with AI at the time, which was not, so like a few years ago, that was not so hot as it is now. And we made a campaign for them, which was programmatic only. On my bit, it was focused on those big publications. So they wanted to be in really like top level newspapers, magazines, online, which was very complicated from a technical standpoint because that meant that we had to contact every single publisher, ask about their rates, things like that, and then make sure that we didn't want everything to happen at once. Like we wanted to do a little build up because the company was also going on the stock exchange. So we wanted to make sure that they are everywhere, in the important papers, but not all at once. So that was very challenging. It was also successful because they were very happy with the results. And that was something that we couldn't really measure in terms of, that was pure brand awareness. They just wanted to get in front of people that would care and would, think highly of their company as a result, but it was not really connected with any KPIs such as, ROAS or anything like that. So that was something that I think programmatic is really good at, because you just can see the results very clearly. And like, also how cool is that you open, Forbes.com and you see your ad. Like, that's really something that what I think marketing is about, to getting in front of people that, care about your product, or you want them to care. And that's the way to do it.
And I think that on a website like Forbes, you have almost 100% certainty about being there for your audience, which may not be a case for the usual targeting in Google using like display network or maybe other type of campaign. So it's actually interesting that you've mentioned the measurement, because I think that it comes with every brand awareness campaign, that the success of it is hardly measured for basically everyone. So I imagine that you gotta have some idea about what to do with that traffic next. So in theory, people coming from brand awareness campaigns, let's say using programmatic buying, may not even visit your website. So this is the first part. The second is, even though they will visit your website because you probably have some landing page for them, what to do next? Like, is this where the journey ends, or can you prove somehow that the user is doing something more outside of just seeing your ad or maybe visiting your website?
That's an excellent question, and that's something that the clients ask a lot. So first thing that I've always done in my campaigns is to make sure that we track different types of conversions. And I don't mean different actions on the website, although that is, good practice as well. But I mean more view through and click through conversions. So that's something that really tells a story in programmatic, because very, very often it is that when you sum up your conversions after the campaign ends, let's say 3 months, you see like 5 times more view through conversions than you do click through. So what does it mean? It means that someone saw the ad, but as you said, they didn't do anything, right? Like, they just saw it, they were scrolling through. Okay, well, fine. And then afterwards, within a specific window, which of course is like, you can choose it, they do another action. So they come back via Google Ads, or they come back on Meta, or they come back organically, just like typing in the website. And that can be measured. I wouldn't say it's like 100% the data that you should, vouch for, because there are always, a lot of variables here, like the attribution modeling, stuff like that. But that's something that I always choose to show the client, so they understand that the conversion can be understood in a few different ways, right? Because it is ultimately, our channel is helping, to get the lead or get the sales or whatever. But then at the same time, the channel that actually got the click-through conversion would attribute it as well. So you can say it's like double counting, but actually in reality, it's not, because when you think about the customer, right? Like, they have to see something, they have to make a decision of like, oh, am I even interested in this? Do I want to do anything more? Do I want to click? Do I want to what? So then they see the ad again, and who's to say, like, who won the client? Like,
yeah, exactly. Attribution battle is going all over.
Yeah.
All over again. So would you trust entirely the reports coming from the tool itself, or from your agency/partner, or are there any other ways of measuring the success, let's say by other tools maybe, or I don't know, will I see them as well in my Google Analytics or other web analytics tool that I'm using every day? What are options?
So what I would do, I would take a few different data sources and compare them, because that's the only way I think that you will get the truth, if you can talk about the truth here. Because the platform itself, right? So for instance, DV360, also an ad server. So if you're using, for instance, Campaign Manager as an ad server, which hosts all of your ads, that's also a good option, because it has a slightly different setup. So slightly different attribution. So you can also see, if the numbers are vastly different, then something is going on, right? Like, something probably is happening on your website. Then Google Analytics. Yes, although Google Analytics 4, from my experience, it's not that great with specifically that. So I think, yeah, looking at all of those things, I'm aware that there are also a lot of different platforms that tell you that they will measure your brand awareness. I am very cautious of platforms like that because I find it to be like, sort of like a next shiny thing in marketing. Like people talk about AI, everyone is excited about it. And then it's like, oh, okay, what's next, right? Mm-hmm. And you have this tool, which I've heard salespeople talk about it. Like it's amazing what they're selling you. It's also very expensive. Mm-hmm. And then what does it do? Like it proves that your brand awareness has impact. Well, duh, it does have impact.
It has to, right?
Yeah, so I know that if you are in a position that you have to show your ROAS, your ROI, mm-hmm. whatever it is, like you need the numbers, then it might be a good solution. Mm-hmm. But my approach is that, not every activity in marketing is measurable. That's actually interesting. I had a situation in the past when we were doing all the performance marketing. So we were doing programmatic, we did Google Ads for a client, and then we didn't really see it like convert, right? Like we knew that we had conversions, like we saw that on the platform, Google Analytics.
Specifically from programmatic buying.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, but also for all the platforms, but programmatic as well. And then it didn't convert to anything. And we didn't know what it was. But then when we started checking, the CRM data and we checked with the client, it appeared that there was a problem with like the sales department because the product that we were selling was very, very expensive. Mm-hmm. So it was not as easy to like, click buy, go to checkout and be done with it. Guess. They had to contact the sales department. And then the sales department was dropping the ball constantly. Mm-hmm. And we were just like, well, that's the thing that you cannot measure, right? Because on paper or like in your dashboard, your marketing can have a fantastic ROI, but if it doesn't translate into anything on the people side, you cannot measure ROI from that. Mm-hmm. And then how do you say if it was successful or not?
So it comes with a problem of these leads being of a different, maybe not quality, but different type, maybe. So it uncovers a problem with people engaged with previous leads that they gotta have a different approach maybe with leads coming from such a campaign. And so we gotta have an understanding of, I don't know, how to teach them about how to approach these leads, or so it's coming much further instead of just, like you said, setting up the campaign, waiting for the results, leads are coming, MQLs are flowing, that's great, but we gotta learn how to transfer them into SQLs.
Yeah, I think exactly that, because leads that would come from programmatic, there won't be many, because top funnel, but they will be cold. It will be people who are remotely interested in whatever it is that you're doing, but they do need a lot of, just selling, really. Because why would they be, just by seeing an ad, they will not be convinced that your product is what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would even go as far as to say that it should be a part of the selling process, rather than just saying, oh, this is marketing. Oh, it gets me my MQLs. All is well. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, but then those MQLs they will take a long time before they turn into anything.
So to sum it all up, it seems like it's not easy to get into programmatic buying. It's not easy to measure it. It's also not easy to just set it up and go with the results. You gotta learn your internal team how to deal with that. That's coming from programmatic as a result. And it seems like I might have a trouble with finding the right agency or a partner. So at what level of a company is it actually profitable for me to use programmatic instead of other platform? Because obviously I know about the differences. I know that there are some placements that are impossible to target using other platforms. But where is it truly effective and more profitable for me choosing programmatic buying instead of, let's say, video campaigns in Google Ads?
I think it boils down to not really the size of the firm, but more to the maturity. Mm-hmm. I think that, it's not as easy as to say just, oh yeah, you should go with Google Ads and like have fun, it will do the job. Maybe it will, maybe it will not. I think I have the approach that it's always good to compare, because if you have a limited budget, I'm not going to say go with programmatic and, have all the different ad formats, just set your money on fire, it will be fine, because you just might not have the resources to do it. So I would say definitely being open to try and test. And that comes with the maturity, right? So if the company is doing their marketing in a specific way for years and it hasn't really worked because they don't know why, like you know how it is, like they fire agency after agency, and then you are just like, well, okay, but maybe we are the problem. So
after so many tries, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that's when maybe the point when you're just like, okay, so let's maybe try something new, and programmatic can be the new thing, and it very often in that scenario works really well, but you have to be open to the fact that you might not be able to see it on paper. That is difficult. That is difficult to translate to clients as well. I've had experiences in the past as well that it worked the other way around. When we were doing programmatic, the client was not entirely happy with the overall performance and said, because we are spending a lot of money on programmatic, let's just switch it off and we see what happens. We said, well, we know what will happen. Like, we will tell you what happens, but okay, you made the call. That's fine. We did switch it off. And then after a few months, because that's usually how long it takes to see the impact of, turning off the brand awareness stuff, they were like, oh, we don't have any new visitors on the website. Guess why?
Why is that?
Something that it's hard to explain. It's not very tangible for, in those conversations. But I think it ultimately, if you are struggling with something in marketing, you don't really know what to do and what to try next. I think it's a good approach. If you are a mature enough company to realize that, sometimes you might strike gold and sometimes you may not. So you have to be open to try.
So it's not only a thing about the budget itself, because I imagine that brand awareness, if you're going to do a brand awareness campaign, then you got to have a decent budget to start. It's not like a small amount of money to go with. But would you say that there are something called a minimum budget to start thinking about launching a programmatic campaign?
I always have in my head a minimum of $100, maybe $200 a day to start with. So that would be $3K to $5K a month. I think it's a good thing to start, because then you can see it's not that much money. You can just see if there are even groups, like targeting groups that would be of interest, that are actually clicking, that are transferring into something. So that's, I think, a starting point. But if you are a big company, if you are e-commerce, if your product is something that you can just buy offhand, then definitely go 10 times more. Because in programmatic, what is very specific, and that's why it's for people with nerves of steel, the budget goes like this. It did happen so many times to me that, you activate the campaign and your daily budget is gone within seconds. Literally seconds. You hit refresh and it's gone. So, if your setup was correct, then that's fine. If you did a mistake, that's not the best day of your life. But yeah, so you have to think it through and not start with huge amounts, because that's what happens. So you need to think about how do you want to use your budget in the best way.
But still, can I think about programmatic campaign as a form of one shot, or should I take into consideration that it will take time to actually not only see the results, but to actually make sense to run it? Or maybe even I should think about doing it as an ongoing campaign, so without even stopping it. Are there do you think that there are some best practices in terms of that, or how does it work?
I think it depends on your goal. Definitely you can do a one-shot campaign. If you have, for instance, a product launch, that can be, a 3-month campaign that just promotes the new thing. That's fine. You can also be seasonal with programmatic. That works very well. If your product is more specific to, let's say, summer, then that's fine to just turn it on for 3-4 months. But the always on campaigns, something that, is constantly in front of your key customers. That's something that I've done in the past, and there are always good results from it. Because if you want to move a little bit down the funnel, maybe be like, mid of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, then that's the way to do it. Because it gives you time to fine tune your targeting, and you can see, who is actually an audience. Is it something that I had in my mind when I was setting up a campaign? Are those people interested? Or maybe we have to, dig deeper. Also allows you to test different optimizations, because it does take time to fine tune what's working with my audience. And finally, it gives you time to also see what kind of ad format and what kind of creative works, because that's also something that I think still is a bit neglected when you think about digital marketing.
Yeah, as a whole.
As a whole, you just don't think about creatives enough.
Yeah.
And in programmatic, that's so important, because there's actually a term, banner blindness, and it's real. Like, there have been so many research on how people just don't see the ads anymore. It's the same like with the billboards outside. People just don't see them. So if they don't see them, to actually make them notice, your creative really has to be outstanding. It has to be not only pretty, but it has to catch your attention in some sort of way. So if it's like smart copywriting, or just like colors that you wouldn't normally see on an ad, or a combination of both, or, funny pets or memes, whatever, it has to be something that catches your attention. So that's also a challenging bit.
Finding it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. And that's why when you have a campaign that is ongoing for 12 months, that gives you the space to try it out and see, okay, this one actually performed really well. So I think both approaches are good. Having a campaign just one shot, and then having an ongoing campaign. Definitely best thing that I've always done is just to do both. So have an always on campaign, as the name says, always on. And then you just add some seasonal things every now and then when you have a new product or something is going on, when you have more PR actions or something of that sort.
Okay. So I think it's time for the final question. It may be a complex one, but who would you recommend running programmatic buying campaigns if they're not doing it right now? So what is the ideal profile of a company that should do this type of campaign?
Definitely direct to consumer kind of company, e-commerce. If you're a big e-commerce and you're not doing programmatic, your competition probably is. So get on it. Also, a company that is focused on content. So where creatives play a big role, when they put a lot of pressure on that. That's something that also will work very well. Because programmatic also, links very well with SEO. So that's why if you are focused on that already, then programmatic is kind of a natural next step. And then lastly, what we talked about, so the mature client, and so someone that is willing to test new platforms, new things, and see what it gives them, and maybe perhaps change a little bit their strategy. So I think that's how I will sum it up. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work for B2B, because I know it does, but it is more challenging, and e-commerce is usually they have more room for those try and tests and more room for budget as well, which comes in handy in those sort of platforms.
Yeah, definitely. So are there any companies that you would not recommend using programmatic? Because it maybe not companies, but maybe industries even where it may not be successful.
Industries, I don't think so, because when you think about in general different channels and different platforms, you would maybe assume that if you are in mature industries such as law or finance, that you won't find your customers on, let's say, TikTok. But we know that that's not really true, because it all changes and there are different age groups and stuff like that. So I don't think you can ever say that with 100% certainty. With programmatic, what's cool about it is that we're talking about the whole internet, right? You cannot really say, oh no, in my industry, no one goes online. That's simply not true in any case.
Not happening.
Yeah, so I think every industry would really benefit from it, depending how niche you are, of course. Because if you are, I don't know, targeting, if you're very specific B2B and you're targeting only engineers and you have a way of doing that already works, then, and you have a tight budget, stuff like that, then maybe I wouldn't recommend it in this sense. So I don't think it boils down to an industry. I think it's more about the type of company you are. So how big you are, how important it is for you to get in front of new clients. Because if it's not that much, if you only want to, have your niche product for a niche audience, then, doing email marketing or Google Ads only might be just enough for you. Okay. In that case, I wouldn't recommend it. I won't definitely say that, programmatic is for everyone, because it also boils down to the maturity of the brand, of your marketing strategy. So if you're doing marketing for the very first time, probably wouldn't be best to start with programmatic. But also if you understand that talking about, more prospecting stuff, brand awareness stuff, top of the funnel stuff, if you are aware that it doesn't come, like this, and you also know that it takes time and takes a few tries to do different things and just see who your audience is, because it might be not who you think it is, then it would be a good fit. But yeah, that depends.
So
best answer, I know.
The best one. But so it seems like it's not about if someone should use it by the type of industry, but it's more about whether you understand the role of programmatic in the whole marketing funnel of your company, and if it's actually fitting for targeting a specific buyer persona that you have created on your path.
Yes, but also not only the role of programmatic, also the role of just prospective clients. Because, normally in every industry, you want to have a profit, right? And you want to grow year to year. So that usually is something that drives the company in their marketing endeavors to try something new, because they are okay, we can see the leads coming in or the sales or the revenue, but we know, or we are already hitting the ceiling, right? Yeah. And then we come in and we say, okay, let's break the ceiling. And so that's what programmatic can really help you with. But if you are comfortable with your ceiling and you don't want to break it, that's fine, because not every company does, right? There are companies that do what they do in a good way because they're very niche, for instance, and they don't, they kind of maybe work more on, we target a specific group, and they will talk about in a specific business how our product is the best, and then this is how we work. So in that scenario, I would not see the need. But as you can imagine, that's a very limited scenario. I think most companies do want to grow, do want to have a profit year to year. So they will need to make some sort of change at one point.
So knowing all this that we are talking about today, as a team leader of X&W Digital, would you recommend your clients to use programmatic at some point in the future?
Well, yeah. Why not? No, definitely. I think finance, that's a different business, because that's a business when the most valuable asset is trust. So that's not something you build with digital ads alone. That, that has to be broader than that. So I think that programmatic, for instance, can be an interesting puzzle. Definitely not the key one, definitely not the main one, but something to add there. It would need to be definitely more premium in terms of placement. So what I've talked before about, choosing very specific publishers, that can be done programmatically, and that would be, one approach. But yeah, I think that business specifically is a bit more, it's a bit more complicated than what the ideal customer would be for programmatic in general.
Yeah, you gotta be even more creative than usual.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I think that we've got it all. So thank you for being my guest today, and we'll see each other in the next episode of Let's Talk Digital. Thank you again.
Thank you.